listening to me praise Generation 5 before Generation 5 has even really been conceptualized. I mean, they still don't even know what's going on with that fully. I mean, we have seen a lot of leaks and a lot of information, from them changing up the cast to them changing up the entire premise to a certain book horse becoming an earth pony and a certain earth pony becoming a Pegasi, but we haven't really seen anything that's going to tell us for certain that it's going to be any better. Look, MLP and Generation 4 has had all the promises of being a great and forever awesome show. The beginning part of Generation 4 is undeniably good. Well, I mean, I guess you could be an asshole and say that it was just okay and that it happened to air at the right time or there was nothing else that was competing with it, but it was an enjoyable experience that I think a majority of people in the fandom who were around back then would agree was great. It was fun. It was the peak fandom experience. Only 2010 bronies can experience that and get it. And you're right. The show hasn't really shown us yet that Generation 5 is gonna be this magic, I don't know, something that's separate than how Generation 4 was run. But here's the thing, I believe Generation 4 isn't led by incompetent writers or incompetent animators. As much as I make fun of Generation 4 and how it's shit now and how the show is dead, it's not because the people working on the show are bad. I know Biggest Jim took offense when I had made a joke about that little jokey joke. I think he quit Twitter, made his stuff private. But it's just that the writing and the people on board don't really get the time to put in the effort that they need to in order to make a cohesive story. What a lot of people don't seem to realize are that the writers aren't employees. Like, they aren't Hasbro employees per se. They're about as connected to Hasbro as I am to Screenwave Media, which, if you guys don't know, because I don't really publicize who I'm with, is my YouTube network. Which really means that they're just essentially contract workers. They're hired on for a certain amount of time and then they create content for that. And in fact, in the older seasons that we all know and love, they would have what's called a writing summit. People would get together, they would bounce off ideas, they would go over scripts, there would be some sort of cohesion. But in a lot of these newer episodes and seasons, they don't have that. The writers are independent contractors hired out by Hasbro, working independently of one another. That's why whenever they do make a reference to an old episode, they constantly do it in the episode where they remind you, hey, see, I remember an older script. And maybe that's because that person also wrote that script, or that he knew the person that wrote that script, or something along that lines. Right now, it's really just a showrunner who's going around saying, yes, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. And then he sends it off to Hasbro, and Hasbro's like, yeah, all of this is okay. There's no Nazi jokes in here. No one's dropping the N-bomb. We're not going to get sued. These can air. And that's where MLP is going wrong. There's no teamwork and friendship, it seems, in the show all about teamwork and friendship. It seems like it's a lot of people who are talented at what they do, I'm sure, but they're just working independently. And the whole is always going to be greater than the sum of its parts. At least in animation and TV production and things of this nature. And I think they finally realized that, because it's not, to my knowledge, really all that cost effective. Maybe it's because they don't have to pay benefits or something like that. Maybe it's because they don't have to pay insurance. Who knows? I'm not really looking into that side of the business, but I feel like Generation 5 would be profitable enough, and that the series as a whole has proven that it's been profitable enough that they can go ahead and not only cash in on it, but perpetuate its lineage of being a good show. There is a lot of money to be made in just simply having a show that people look up to as being a pinnacle of animation or bastion of the current generation of animation, because that fuels a lot of nerds to go out and support your content. There were a lot of people who didn't like Pacific Rim, but simply came out to support that type of content because they wanted to see more of it. That is a very real section of nerdom, and it's something that does happen. We tell you guys to do this all the time, but really, if you want something to grow or get better, or to even stop, you vote with your dollars, not with an online petition. And I think in Generation 5, they'll go back to their roots. They're already getting rid of the main voice cast, it looks like, and they're replacing them. And I think they're going to go ahead and start doing various changes in the structure of the show that will allow them to better be cohesive, to better understand what each script is doing, and to form a more whole part, a more put together season. Something that's not a bunch of random episodes stringed together with a loose narrative. In the later seasons, you see, they keep on introducing topics that readily are just forgotten about. Even in this season, how often is the school actually brought up? Or even the kids? There seems to be episodes where the school doesn't even seem to exist, save for being in the background or in the intro. There seems to be multiple episodes that span months in which they just never go to class. Even the structure of class itself doesn't really make sense. People have full-time jobs. Rarity owns multiple stores, and yet she's a full-time teacher too? And there's only 5 of them to boot. I was about to say 6, but Twilight herself seems to take a more administrative role. Even things that were as far back as simply writing in the journal of the 2 sisters, that was kind of done away with pretty early on. In fact, it never really amounted to anything. The whole subplot of building up the castle just didn't go anywhere because Hasbro just gave her a new one that sprouted from the ground. And now that's another abandoned place. And it was only referenced one other time in season 8 at that. There have been good episodes, there have been good songs, but it's never been consistent. And I think that's because some writers just need a nudge from their peers. Some writers just need a little bit more time to refine it and mesh it with the other stories that are going on. We have large gaps in times, stuff that just doesn't really add up when you look at all the episodes together. And I think if Hasbro really wants to make Generation 5 profitable and more profitable, I'm sure they're gonna make money, but do they want that fan base, that rabid fan base that they used to have in 2010? If they want that cash cow back, I think they're going to sacrifice the few extra tens of thousands of dollars probably that they need to get an actual full-time staff of writers. People who are committed to the story, who aren't moonlighting on multiple other stories and shows, a staff that's really gonna stick with it. I think at this point, the show's been through so many showrunners, which are the people who ultimately have the first creative say on the project before Hasbro, is telling. It's had more, I think it's had one every season or something crazy like that. It's had a bunch. It's gone through quite a few. And when you're changing leadership and you're changing staff so often, it's gonna leave a disconnect with the audience. People aren't gonna be as closely tied to what they're working on. It stops being a passion project and starts just being a project. And that's when some of the love just dips out of it. And it's no fault of the writers, no fault of the show creators. It's just what's gonna happen. And I think, and I hope, Generation 5 they'll fix that. And that's why, despite not seeing a single episode or even script from Generation 5, I have hope that it's going to be better. Yes, Hasbro could let me down. They could let all of us down. And the wait till Generation 5 could be moot. It could just be another cash grab. It could be soulless and lifeless, even more so. It could simply be writers and animators going through the motions. But why would I want to hope for that? I'd much rather hope that they're going to put in the passion that they had originally. And hopefully Hasbro will allow the writers and animators to do it. Really, I guess at the end of the day, only time will really tell if it will be good or if it's gonna be another pile of shit. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoy the content we put out here. If you can't tell, we did finally start doing even more anime in Steven Universe. Our channel is kind of being throttled. I have seen it for a few months now, but there's not much we can do for that. If you guys enjoy these videos, share them out. Like the video, subscribe. If you really adore us, support us on Patreon or buy a t-shirt. That always helps us out a ton. Be sure to check out the other channels like Molimnus Theater. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Woo!